If you're looking to buy Bitcoin, I have a structure warning for you guys so we can stay ahead of the game. We can understand these structures a lot better, and we're going to jump straight into it, guys, because this is very significant. And you know what? We already know Bitcoin's supply and demand. Demand is much, much stronger than supply. We covered that in previous videos so many times. So forget about news, forget about tariffs with the 25% imported cars. Forget about all of this because at the end of the day, we all know that Bitcoin structure, just the structure alone tells us what's really going on, right? How strong is it? Where volume is at? And how high and low we can go. But here's the warning I have for you guys right now. And it's very significant because this can provide the patience we need to hold off a little bit to get great deals in Bitcoin before it begins to start rallying. So here's the warning I have for you guys right now. So we already know that I said this many many times, but we're in the process of a 5 wave move up. We have the fourth and fifth wave up here for now. We're not using them, but we're looking for a third wave to go somewhere between 90 and 91k ideally before we see a fourth wave correction and then a fifth wave up back into 100k. But here's the thing, right? Solid first wave, solid second wave, and we're in the process of this third wave. But now here's the thing. There is weakness in the short term. We already know that Bitcoin, even at these levels, is very, very much deep discount. But that does not mean it can't get a little bit worse before it can start getting better again. We know that we consolidated sideways for a very long time. We were beginning to show signs of it moving higher until negative news came out by BitHack, tariff news pushing the price down sub 80k levels 2 times in a row, and we could potentially be seeing sub 80k levels just one more time before a higher rise up. But here are the support lines that we really need to keep an eye on. So we understand the third wave. Ideally, we wanted to go 90 to 91k. Sweet spot, right? That's a sweet spot. But here's the thing. Ever since we reached into this resistance area, which is the holding point to see if we can break to go into the green area to complete a healthy third wave. Healthy third wave, considering the fluctuations we have. If we have enough volume to create these fluctuations, we have enough volume to complete a healthy third wave within this area. But ever since we reached this resistance area right here before completing a healthy third wave, we've seen very clearly that the price struggles to pass 88k into 89k. It's not passing the 88.8k 1.38 extension line right here, and it tried hitting it again once again, but it failed, and we're starting to see a little bit of a downtrend forming, right? Very nice to see support holding within this fib retracement from this overall move up. We've seen the 120 moving average hold strong. We've seen the ascending support lines hold strong. But due to just the way volume has been building up, we couldn't go back up to previous swing highs, and we couldn't surpass them, getting closer to liquidation walls, closer to that 90k sweet spot. So here's the thing. Here's the warning I have for you guys. Due to a massive sell-off to perfectly on support, we haven't seen the RSI bottom out much. We've seen it max out quite well back here. We've seen the RSI, max out to the bottom side quite a few times, but we didn't see it happen here, even though it hit support after big red candles. We've seen imbalance form right here, and it got filled very nicely, and now that's acting as short-term resistance. So what I'm looking for is proof, more confidence, more evidence that these support lines are going to hold. Due to this bearishness in the short term after a massive rally, we know that a reasonable correction is in place, and that reasonable correction is the overall move from the last super deep value Bitcoin price below 80k. So if you consider this orange line right here, here's the bottom, here's the top, all the way up to the just under 88.8k that we can't seem to pass. This is the most reasonable retracement support area we can really work with. this indicates very much, I say reasonable a lot, but this creates a very, very reasonable retracement for such a consistent rally upward, supporting, the support line quite well, respecting it, moving its way up. We haven't seen a significant correction back into retracement in a while. That doesn't mean it has to happen, but understanding that we are struggling to make new highs within the smaller time frame right here, we are making lower highs, and now we created a lower low from here, regardless of support being in place. And we haven't maxed out the 0.618 at 85K support line just yet. So it is very possible, and it's just, it doesn't have to happen, but it's very, very possible that if Bitcoin can continue to trade sideways for a while, making a little bit of a more, discounted move over time, we know that it is very likely for it to dip even further, trying to get down to 85K before it can move higher, right? That would be the reasonable retracement for this smaller picture. Now, if you're looking at the overall picture, you know that, hey, it's very, very possible for Bitcoin to go into low 80s once again. Low 80s, 81 to 84.5K respectively. It's very, very much possible. We have very consistent move higher. A reasonable retracement is very much possible at any point. And at this point, it's looking very likely that we're going to see continued sell-off throughout, the rest of this trading week as we try to finish off March, because, we have some weakness right here. We have weakness. We haven't seen the retracement get filled out much. We've seen retracements get filled pretty much perfectly, maxing it out pretty much previously so many times. So it's very possible it can happen again. And the reason behind that is, again, we haven't seen a truly properly filled retracement during this whole move higher. And again, we're starting to see these lower lows and lower highs forming, and support can easily be tested once again. If support fails, again, we're looking at 85K as a potential bottom. If not, if that fails, we're looking all the way down to potentially 81K for a bottom. And now, even if we come all the way down here, we're going to see a ton of potential resistance being created on the move down, where we see imbalances, we see fluctuative areas where price consolidates for a very short period of time that can act as a potential magnet and a resistance going forward. And we still have that likelihood of, the third wave not being filled due to supports failing, creating a lot of negative volume that can create resistances on the way down, and then making this third wave move higher invalid. And if that were to happen, then we're not looking at a fair ABC structure, where price comes down on this final wave up and then down once again before we can finally go higher. Instead, we're looking at more of a WXY pattern where volume begins to decrease and bulls tend to weaken before we reach, close to the previous swing high on the major, bigger picture right here. And instead, we, those bears begin to build up, and then we see that deep, super deep discounted value on Bitcoin once again before we start moving up higher. So again, guys, really, these structures are very clear at the moment, unlike previously where there was a bunch of fluctuations and creating a whole lot of different patterns where we can't really follow super clearly. But now things are very consistent. Things are very consistent, and we know that retracement, or at least the bigger picture retracement, has not really been properly filled for a while. And at the same time, again, we're starting to see a little bit of a downtrend forming right here. So the warning is, again, we have some weakness. We have some weakness, and this can easily build up to fill in retracements more properly before we can start potentially moving up higher. So understand that, bearish pressure right now, in my opinion, is building up. It's quite strong. We can easily see the price dip down, break supports to try to, max out the bottom side of the RSI once again before we can start potentially moving higher. We can easily come down again, sub 85K, very possible in the short term. before we start moving up higher. Now, this doesn't have to happen, which is why it's very important to always have some background, swing positions on Bitcoin to the long side to take advantage of the overall move higher. Because if you're like me and you believe that Bitcoin will be moving much higher throughout 2025, it is very important to have background positions to capture the overall move throughout this year. But again, guys, we're starting to see some weakness in the short term. We have solid support areas to look at. And again, guys, that's why it's so important to be patient and not to FOMO in, because there has been a lot of positive news out there, and that's creating a lot of buying pressure, FOMO, and then that can easily create the liquidity that institutions need to maybe take some profit on Bitcoin, sell off, create major dips, and then that will create fear in retail to pull the price back down even more to a proper retracement before we can start moving up higher. So again, guys, we got to see where the price is going to go. We got to see if support is going to continue to hold. It's very important to be cautious and prepared for any support breaks further down to the downside. And then we have some very clear buying areas to look at if these fail. So yeah, that's my warning, guys. It's just looking a little bit too weak right now, like the real short term. But overall, I am bullish on Bitcoin throughout this year. And we will see if this third wave area is going to hold valid. If not, I will remove it, and I'll give you guys an update on what potential, more detailed support areas to look at if that's what's going to happen. So I'm going to be patient with it. I haven't opened any new positions lately. I'm waiting on things to clear up a little bit before I decide to, open up some new longs or begin to short Bitcoin. So yeah, guys, hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.